5-minute tax guides from your 5-minute tax guy. Short lessons to help you navigate the treacherous, hazardous, and totally unpredictable U.S. federal tax code. The Earned Income Tax Credit. The Earned Income Tax Credit, or EITC, or sometimes just EIC, is one of the most popular subjects for taxpayers because it's probably the single most beneficial credit for low to middle income taxpayers with children, whether married or not. This credit can be up to $6,444 for taxpayers filing jointly with 3 or more qualifying children. That's fantastic, 5-minute tax guy. How do I take advantage of this amazing credit? Just one thing to get started. Due to changes in the law, if you claim any of the refundable credits such as ACTC, EITC, or AOC on your income tax return, the IRS cannot issue your refund before February 15th. This applies to the entire refund, not just the portion associated with the refundable credit. Hardship claims for these refunds will not be accepted prior to February 15, as this refund hold is required by law. See the next screen for advice if you are in this situation. Just as an aside, if you are claiming any of the refundable credits mentioned in the previous screen and you need your refund prior to February 15th, there are tax preparation services out there that offer refund advances so that you can get at least some of your refund prior to that February 15th restriction. Be aware that this refund advance is a loan, and the bank that makes this loan may charge you interest on the refund advance. However, some do not. Just make sure that you go to a reputable tax preparation service. They should not charge you any extra fees to qualify for the refund advance beyond interest associated with the advance, which is charged by the bank, not the tax service, and the interest, if any, should be reasonable. There are certain tests that a dependent must meet to qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit. These tests are divided into 2 tiers. First, you must pass the tests for all taxpayers. These tests include the income thresholds shown on the next screen. These are the income limits for the EIC for 2018. In addition to the income limits, the following 6 tests apply to all taxpayers. You and your spouse, if filing jointly, and all the children you are claiming for the EITC must have a valid Social Security number by the due date of the return, including extensions. Note that the requirement is that you have a Social Security number. An ATIN, ITIN, or any other tax ID number will not work. You cannot file married filing separate. You must be a U.S. citizen all year. Your investment income must be $3,450 or less. You must have earned income, and you cannot file a Form 2555 or a Form 2555-EZ. Once you've met the test for all taxpayers, then you must also meet the following tests, which are divided into 2 groups of taxpayers. If you don't have a qualifying child, you must be at least age 25, but not yet age 65. You cannot be the dependent of another taxpayer. You cannot be the qualifying child of another taxpayer. And you must have lived in the U.S. for more than half the year. If you have a qualifying child, your child must meet the relationship test, the age test, the residency test, and the joint return test. You cannot be the qualifying child of another taxpayer, and your qualifying child cannot be used by more than one taxpayer to claim the EITC. Relationship test. To meet the relationship test, a child must be related to the taxpayer in one of the following ways: the taxpayer's son, daughter, or stepchild, a legally adopted child, or a child lawfully placed with a taxpayer for legal adoption, eligible foster child placed with a taxpayer by an authorized placement agency or by a judgment, decree, or other order of any court of competent jurisdiction, brother, sister, stepbrother, or stepsister, or a descendant of any of the above, for example, a grandchild, niece, or nephew. The IRS is fairly generous in their definition of a child. Note that these are the same requirements for claiming a qualifying child as a dependent on your tax return. An easy way to remember the relationship test is just to remember child, sibling, or a descendant of such. You cannot claim your parents, uncles, aunts, or grandparents. Another important point to keep in mind is that a qualifying child relationship established by marriage is never dissolved by divorce or death. In other words, if you have a stepchild and you become divorced from the parent of that child, then that child is still your stepchild. This also applies if the parent of that child dies. And this means that you can claim your stepchild even if you become divorced from the child's natural parent, if that child passes all the other tests to be a qualifying child. Age test. This one's pretty straightforward. To meet the age test, the person must be one of the following: under age 19 at the end of the year, a full-time student and under age 24 at the end of the year, or permanently and totally disabled at any time during the year, regardless of age. In addition to the above rules, the dependent must be younger than you or younger than your spouse if you are filing jointly, unless disabled. The residency test, again, pretty straightforward. To meet the residency test, the child must have lived with the taxpayer for more than half the year. However, exceptions exist for temporary absences, such as hospital stays, vacations, school or summer camp, children who were born or died during the year. A child who was born or died during the year is treated as having lived with the taxpayer for more than half the year if their home was the child's home for more than half of the time that they were alive during the year. Kidnapped children or children of divorced or separated parents. The joint return test. To claim a dependent, that dependent may not file a joint return unless that joint return is filed only to claim a refund of withheld income tax or estimated tax paid. That's it for the Earned Income Tax Credit. Pretty simple, right? Yes, I know I went over my 5-minute limit, but this is a complicated subject with lots of material to cover, so cut me some slack, okay? I did tell you how to receive some of your refund prior to February 15th if you're in a bind, so I think we can agree. I did okay, right? For more great 5-minute tax guides, check out the other videos in my 5-minute tax guide video series. See the list in the description below this video.